Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody. I'm hoping you can hear me. It's Wednesday, October something, 23rd, I believe. And Thaddeus, good to see you. Pat, good to see you. And also to have Brandon here in spirit. So, yeah. So we got a live stream done last week, despite the travel bug that I had, and we did it on Thursday instead of Wednesday. So I appreciate everybody who was able to come to that. Um, Interesting. I'm setting up my stream deck a certain way, and one of the things that I wanted to do, which clearly I didn't. What's up, David? Um, was I? It's impossible for me to see the pathetic viewers count, and I was thinking maybe I would add that to the there. Should I replace timpani roll? No, I'll replace the pause button with that. And I don't think, oh yeah, it does. It actually gives me a count, so I can see how many four people are here right now. So I hope everybody's doing well. I'm gonna have a glass of wine today because I feel like it, and it's 6 o'clock on the East Coast. And I've shot the daily drop for tomorrow. I'm going to finish kind of uploading and doing that afterwards, and then I'm going to go inside and I'm going to cook some food, fresh pasta tonight. This is Loud Note. It's hard to see this. I don't think you're going to be able to see it any better, just because of the way the light is in here, I think. But it's basically a French Pinot Noir that you can get at Trader Joe's here in the States, and it's ridiculous. It's like $7 a bottle, which is kind of what happens when you go to Europe. You know, you can go into a supermarket, especially in places like Italy, or even into like a winery, like a tasting room, and you can get an amazing bottle of wine for 10 to 15 euro. And that's harder to do here. This is a good bottle of Pinot. It's not exceptional, but what are you going to do? Eric, good to have you. And I do have, and thank you, Thaddeus, for letting me know that you can hear and see me. I do have the YouTube chat up, but my poor old eyes are going to have a hard time seeing it. It's really just so that when we do the trivia contest later with the prizes, that I don't screw up again with who's going to win. So it'll be like a triple check, even though I expect people to have extra eyes on that right now. So tell me how everybody's doing. And as always, with the weekly live stream, the purpose here is to make sure that if you have questions for upcoming productions, for just sort of project planning, anything related to equipment decisions that you might be making, that would be great. And I do want to, from a housekeeping standpoint, remind you that if you follow the channel and you're watching the daily drop and you are coming to the live streams, that I know you have a lot of choices in terms of what decisions you make when you are going out and making purchases. And I, like many channels, have affiliate relationships. My biggest one is with B&H Photo Video, and they're the ones that sponsor this monthly contest that unfortunately is for people who are U.S. residents or who have a U.S. address. But they provide up to $500 worth every month of free prizes that I can give away when we do things like this or other contests. But I have an affiliate link in every episode of the Daily Drop. One is just to sort of my favorite gear. So you go there, there's a landing page based on different categories of products. And then you can go into that category and check those out. But there's also a generic B&H link. And none of that stuff costs you any more money. And you may go ahead and use other people's links for affiliate stuff as well. But if you're going to make a purchase and you're getting value out of the channel, it wouldn't hurt if you linked through those links from my episodes, because that just helps all around. That's all I gotta say. All right. Wow. Okay. Show G's coming in. Any guess on the rumored Sony camera releases? I haven't been over to let me just go check the interwebs really quick. I don't know what you're talking about, but I know one website that I could check that might give me some insight. Or maybe I can't. Quick update. 100% confirmed Sony announcement by end of November. Okay. Well, Shoji, why don't you start with your ideas of what you think might be coming from Sony? Are we thinking an Alpha series camera? Are we thinking about something that's going to, I'd be surprised, replace the FX6 or FX9, mainly because of the sort of trade show circuit? Sony still seems to abide by that to a degree. So we've had IBC already happen. We just had Cinegear in Atlanta, NAB New York, and no announcements at those shows. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Sully, what's up? David says, just delivered the fourth and final Friday Night Fright episode edit for season 3 to the showrunner to add intro and credits. That's awesome. I love that you're doing that. I think you mentioned to me, David, that there's certain episodes that you're tied in with and maybe not all of them. So again, remind everybody, if you can type into the chat the specific name, because there's a lot of Friday Night Frights, the name of the YouTube channel, even if you can't put that direct link in here, that would be great. That way people can seek it out, and maybe even just put the titles in here, which would be great. So there you go. All right. So things move along as they do. I'm still in my dual 4K capture for recording and streaming situation. I'm hoping that by end of day tomorrow, I'm much further along with that. You'll have to watch tomorrow's episode to kind of get an update on this quote unquote journey. And other than that, if you own this just came to my mind, if you own a sound devices, recorder, or mixer recorder, you might want to go check out their website today. It's the last day of 2, where they're doing a plugin sale. So they're doing 25% off any of their plugins at all. And I actually took advantage of that yesterday. It was still a bit of a hard pill to swallow, but I bought a second license for my Mix Pre 6.2 for noise assist. That way I can have that on 2 separate channels, or I can have it just feed to the left and the right mix, or a combination of those two. So, yeah. So 25% off their plugins. And they have some interesting ones if you own one of those devices. I don't think every plugin is compatible with every device, but they have Mix Assist, which is not $300 like Noise Assist. So that I got for Noise Assist second license $225. So $75 savings, significant. But Mix Assist is a little bit different. That's a $99 plugin normally, 25% off. You can do the math, about $75. And that particular plugin, what you do is, if you have multiple people who are being recorded at the same time with different microphones, it's essentially listening to that dialogue and then it's dropping those other mics. It's essentially ducking them, so that the person speaking is the one that's being favored. So I have Mix Assist already. I have that on there. I haven't used it to date. I haven't found a need for it for the stuff that I'm doing, though. Now that I have a longer bar for, well, let me show it to you. Hold on. This is the longer microphone bar that I got, considerably longer than the one that I had before. It took forever to get from AliExpress, but this will basically allow me to make adjustments and have microphones considerably further away. And it's nice because there's actually markings on here. And if I put a ball mount and I put, shock mounts on here, I can have two people who are in an interview and I can have separate microphones here. But this might be a good example of where I might use noise assist. I don't know if you can use noise assist. I'm sorry, mix assist. I don't know if you can use mix assist and noise assist together. So that's something I'll have to look into. But this is, it wasn't cheap, this thing. It was much cheaper on AliExpress and took a month plus to get, but it was still about an $80 purchase. So, not nothing, but I think it solves a problem that I've run into in the past. And none of the bars that I've used in the past, and I've done episodes on it, have been quite long enough. And this one, for a two-person type of interview, should do the trick for what I need. Otherwise, it's just going to be two boom stands or two stands with a boom pole holder and a boom pole. You get the idea. All right. It's quiet in the chat. What's happening here? You know how it works in this funny land called the weekly live stream, which is put in at the C47 like David did at the beginning, like Show G did. And then Show G, you brought up this question on these rumored Sony cameras. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think those may or may not be, and whether or not you think they're going to fit into the sort of mirrorless Alpha line, or they're going into the Cine Alta line in any way, shape, or form. Be nice if we saw something. We just had the C80 that was announced and is coming out this year. So, it's good for the industry when we start to see other cameras, and gives us choice and all of that fun stuff. All right, what do we got? Sully, what you got? What am I drinking? Oh, I mentioned that before. I like it's like a Euro C47. It's I haven't even had a sip yet, but it's a red French Pinot Noir that I get at Trader Joe's, and it's called Ludenote. I don't. Come on, I'm awful with that. So it's not an Oregon Pinot, which is what I drink a fair amount of because of where I live, but it's very reasonable. I think it's about $7, maybe $8 a bottle, and it's just a good everyday wine. It's not going to knock your socks off, but when you open a bottle, if you don't finish it or you use some of it for cooking, it's very drinkable, and there you go. All right, Shoji's coming in. It's a little fruit forward, but it's good. It's doing the trick. Do I have the Sound Devices Ambisonics plugin? I do not, but I also don't do those types of ambient recordings, and I think from what I understand, you need to have a special kind of microphone for that. So that kind of falls outside of not my pay grade. But it falls outside of what I'm normally doing. So if I were somebody who was in the music recording side of things and stuff like that, then maybe, but that doesn't fit into my particular workflow. Yeah. All right. So there you go. I muted just for a second. Shoji's coming in. Says, I'd like to see an FX3 2 and an FX32. So would I. That would be pretty good. FX30 is working hard over there. And FX32, that's kind of the one to me that would be really interesting, especially if they go higher megapixel, because the problem with that camera is you're getting 4K native with the full frame sensor, but then the way the camera is, because of the megapixels, when you go to 1080, what is it? Oh, when you go to APS-C crop or super 35 millimeter crop, you're forced to be in an HD resolution just because of the way the camera is configured. So that might be interesting. The camera above me, the A7C II, has a higher megapixel, so when you crop, you're not losing resolution in terms of that. I think I've tried the Bogle wines once or twice, Thaddeus. Um, Not enough to say that it's memorable from the standpoint of, oh yeah, there's that wine that I love. And I do have ones like that that are from this area that I keep going back to. The problem with Oregon Pinot Noirs, and I'm kind of going off topic now, though maybe not, um, is they tend to be quite expensive. So you can buy inexpensive versions of Oregon Pinot Noir. And versions, I don't mean they're knockoffs. I just mean that the larger producers may make, a version that they're putting in. Willamette Valley Vineyards puts a barrel select into Costco, and it might be $14.99 to $16.99 a bottle. And it's a perfectly good drinkable bottle. Is it better than this one from France? Probably not. And a lot of the Pinot Noir grapes that are grown here are actually, they originate from clones of French um, varieties of the same grape, because you have, like that area called Burgundy up there in France has a very similar climate to where I am, and so there's a whole thing there. But there you go. All right, Shoji. Um, can you talk, and I'll get to your question after that, Sully. Can you talk a bit about your experience with the FX30? Do you use full frame or APS-C Sony lenses with FX30? Thanks. The answer to that question is, well, first of all, just my overall experience with the FX30 is pretty great. I would kind of put myself out there saying that if you're looking for a portable or even an entry point digital cinema camera right now, it's really hard to beat the FX30. It's not, in my mind, a hybrid camera. It's designed really as a video-centric camera. Um, and that's the way it's designed. It has the same housing as the FX3. It has a built-in fan. It has a pixel mapping feature that will remind you to basically do essentially a black balance on the camera. Every once in a while, and just sort of the way it functions as a camera is more like a cinema camera than it is necessarily, I would say, at least older school DSLR mirrorless camera. So all in all, very, very happy with that. And they oftentimes, they meaning Sony, will do a $200 off on that camera body. So it's coming in US dollars at around $15.99. It's usually actually $15.98 on B&H's website. And that's a pretty phenomenal deal. And then you can match that up with so many lenses nowadays. I mean, when I'm using primes on Sony E-mount cameras, I'm generally using the bodice lenses from Zeiss, and I happen to have a few of the focal lengths in that range. I have a 25, a 40, and an 85. They never made a 50, 55 because there's a Sony lens out there which has Zeiss glass and Zeiss optics, which is a 55 millimeter lens. So they kind of left that alone, but they did a 25, 40, 85, and I believe they have 100. They might have 135, I'm pretty sure. But when it comes to E-mount prime autofocus lenses, the bodice lenses are pretty great. And then when it comes to other lenses that I'm using that are E-mount, there's a number of them, but it's just sort of on a day-to-day basis, I'm using either the full frame 28 to 70, which is right behind their f2.8 DGDN Sigma lens, which isn't a very large lens. It's a decent size, but it's got a nice range. And that's, again, full frame. So I could use that on the A7C2. I can use it on there. I can use it on any full frame. That would be fine on an FX3. And is it a signature prime? No. Is it, a high-end cinema lens? No. But when you're talking about cranking out day in, day out content for something like the Daily Drop, it works great for that. And then the other one right above me is the Sigma 18 to 50, which is kind of a rock star lens. It has some distortion problems, but you just set some stuff up in the camera and it adjusts it. Again, not a high-end cinema lens. It's not going to give you the bokeh that you're going to get out of a bodice lens. Decently fast for a zoom lens, a 2.8 as well. But what I love about that and the 28 to 70, but that 18 to 50, the close focus is just ridiculous. It's not a one-to-one macro, but it's really, really close focus. So that's what I'm using. I have another 24 to 70 full frame f4 Sony lens that I've had for a long time. And those are most of the E-mount lenses that I'm using on a regular basis. What I would love to have, hold on. This is an X mount, but the Fujinon lenses. This is the 18 to 55. These are Rockstar zoom lenses, and of course, and I just saw a post over here, a comment. Have I used the Laowa Ranger cinema zooms? And the answer is no. And when these Fujinon lenses came out on the market, the MK series, there really wasn't anything like this, that was a lightweight, this is a T2.9 all the way through, parfocal, very little breathing. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that these lenses have been around for so long. They're quite sharp. And of course, the only downside to these, if there is one, and they even have a macro feature that you can activate, is that, what is the downside? Well, there's no AF. That's really the main downside. So if you need autofocus, then that's, and we're starting to see some interesting things now in sort of the zoom cinema world, where we're starting to see AF getting introduced. And there was one company right around IPC that announced AF based anamorphic lenses. Crazy. All right. I hope that answers your question, Shoji. If you need more information, just do a follow-up post. Keep me on track, kids. It's 3:23. There's none of this garbage of we might be ending a little bit early. We're going the full hour today, and we'll have in the last 15 or 20 minutes this trivia contest. I have a bunch of questions set up here. If you won last month, you're not winning this month. So that's just know that. Be honest. I can't be your parent on this thing, but you got to give everybody else a chance, right? And that's kind of the deal with the paltry. I shouldn't have put the count on the Stream Deck. It's depressing, but what are you gonna do? All right, now we're getting to Sully. How are you? How are your lighting experiments coming? I did that whole round before I left to go to Europe, and that went really well. Next week, I kind of continue that. Not necessarily in the same way I did. I still have all that stuff set up, and I can use it if I need to, the gray bounce and everything else. But next week, now that the space is organized and I'm working out my camera input situation, next week, I'll start to figure out how, at least for certain types of content. I have a lot of tabletop stuff coming up for both product and maybe some of this food stuff. Then I'll just have to decide how I want to light that stuff and what's going to be in the frame. But more than likely, I'm going to lean on relatively large soft boxes like the 150 centimeter one that I have here from Nanlite. I like those because they have large surface area. I can also put a grid in them for controlling the light and all that kind of stuff. All right, David's got some info here, and hopefully, Sully, that answers enough of the question. There'll just be more stuff coming up. David says it's called Friday Night Frights, like every other channel. I was only involved in season 3, episode 1, which is called On the Run. Episode 2, It Takes Two. I remember that song from the 80s. You remember. Rob Bass. Episode 3, The Marriage Trap. Episode 4, A Finale, Most Murderous. I shot and edited. Awesome. Nice. Shoji, can you add an EVF to the FX30? Why are you using full frame lenses with the FX30 and not APS-C lenses? Well, let me answer the second question first, which is the 28 to 70 most of the time is on the A7C2, which is full frame, and the bodice lenses that I have are full frame and they're E-mount, so why not use them? Sure, the field of view is definitely different, but why not? And the first question is, can you add an EVF? Well, technically, yes. You have an HDMI out on the camera. There is not, to my knowledge, a third-party or Sony-made EVF that slides into the hot shoe. I might be wrong about that though, because there are those types of things that do exist. And if there is one, it's going to be quite small. It's not going to be a large EVF like some of the companies make. But you could technically do an HDMI to EVF and then have a loop out, which would go somewhere else. It just can get a little bit messy from a cabling standpoint. So maybe have a look if you're doing some research on whether or not Sony does make a wow, we're up to 11 double digits. It's getting real here. People are coming in for the price. You should have to stay here for the whole thing if you're going to do the contest, but who knows? Sony EVF FX3. I'll just do FX3 for giggles. Not seeing anything that's in the reasonable. I thought there was like a little tiny one, but it may not be a Sony camera that you can add that to. Maybe it's Fuji I'm thinking of, or somebody else. There are a couple of cameras on the market where you can actually take the hot shoe, which is usually like a multi-function shoe nowadays, and you can add a small EVF to it, but I can't remember exactly what that is. All right. Eric says, currently using the Laowa Rangers for a cable docu-series and love the price, weight, focal ranges, and the way they handle flares. I have to check out the Fujis. The Fujis are beautiful. I mean, they wind up being, I think, when they're on sale, they might go down to between $3,000 and $3,500 US. I think they're normally in the 4K price range. Fuji MK 18 to 55, and then they make a 50 to, what is it? I have it over there. 50 to something. Yeah, $37.99 for the Canon RF mount. You've got the X mount at $39.99. MFT Micro Four Thirds. Sony E mount is showing up at $37.99. And then they have the 50 to 135, and you can buy them as a set for generally less than $8,000. But pretty great. Again, can't do a comparison to the Laowa ones because I don't really know enough about them. I know that there are pretty tremendous value overall. All right, waiting for the next question. Looks like Eric was the last one. So what else have we got? And let me see if I can open up my chat thing here. And again, I don't have the live stream playing on my computer right now. What I do have is I have the YouTube chat also open, which doesn't have a lot of delay, but enough where I could see the problems we've been having with the challenges coming in. We're at lucky 13 right now. Let's keep some people coming in. And what other questions do we have? Because we're only at 3:30, and we definitely have time to talk about other things. Definitely some questions coming up today that aren't the everyday questions, which I appreciate. So what else do you want to talk about? I'm happy to give you some insight into my process, or if you have an upcoming project that you want to talk about and you're trying to think that through, let me know. I'm here for that as well. That's kind of the whole point of the weekly live stream, is to be the community part of what we do. Your engagement on the daily episodes that I do is incredibly important to me personally, and keeps the dialogue going and keeps the community going. I especially like it when it's not just me who answers, but there are other people who chime in, because the whole point of the channel is education, helping each other, and, just kind of getting along in this business. It's interesting, just as an aside, while I'm waiting for another question, which of course just came in. It seems like the chatter having to do with virtual production and AI has kind of calmed down a little bit. It's not that it's not there; it's omnipresent. And if you looked at videos of Adobe Max and their show they just had in Miami, then it's all over the place. But it's not so noisy in that particular space as much as it was before. And I'll be interested to see. I don't think I can quite read the tea leaves on this one, but it'll be interesting to see 3 to 6 months from now sort of what the response is. I don't think it's the same conversation as, 3D in movies and that being kickstarted many times over time. But I do feel like it's not as crazy as it was. Shoji, couple of questions back to back. Do you always shoot multiple camera angles for indoor interviews? If so, can you describe your second angle? I'll say this, that in the last, I'm going to say at least 10, closer to maybe 15 years, the vast majority of interviews that we're conducting are with two cameras. In an ideal world, if you're interviewing two people, you have three cameras, because a camera is basically a master of both people, and then you cross with B and C, so you can get singles of each of the people. So the second angle is generally always coming from. So let's say I was looking. In this case, it may not translate exactly because of the mirroring, non-mirroring that happens when you do crap like this. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm pretending that I'm being interviewed, looking camera left, right? And when we say camera left, I'm looking to the right of me, but camera left is from the camera operator's perspective. So if the camera operator were behind that camera and looking at me, their left would be over there. So I'm looking camera left, and generally wherever the person's looking, if they're looking off camera, not to camera, because that's a little bit different, but if they're looking off camera, you're keying from the same side that they're looking. So I'm keying from camera left side, okay? Or I'm keying, if I'm looking over here, from camera right side. You don't have to do that 100% of the time, but these are the guidelines, because then if I'm looking over here and my camera's here, I'm shooting into this side here, which is the shadow side, and that's going to give dimension and shape. So if I were going to set a second camera, I would set that over on the camera right side over there, so that would be coming in even at more of an angle on this shadow side over here to create dimension. If I put it on the other side, it would feel very flat in terms of the lighting. There wouldn't be as much shape. Can you do it? Absolutely. Sometimes it gets you out of a problem as well. If no matter how high you're raising the light and you're still getting light catching on somebody's glasses, or you're not getting a catch light in people's eyes and they're wearing glasses, then sometimes you have to cheat and you'll key from the other side. And it'll feel a little flatter, but you'll get a catch light, so on and so forth. And then how far that second camera is from a camera really is somewhat of a personal preference. Sometimes people will swing it really wide. You'll see sometimes on channels like ESPN where it's almost in profile for the B camera. A lot of the times the B camera, which is generally a longer focal length, a tighter shot, is very close to A camera. And then sometimes it is somewhere in between. So it just really depends on the look and feel of what you're trying to go for and maybe what the client is looking for. Any tips for a very, very simple makeup kit for interviewees? I've done episodes. I don't have it in front of me, but I tend to keep it very, very simple. I will hire a makeup artist anytime I can, and especially if I'm interviewing lots of people, we budget for that. That's important. But if I'm just going in to do quick interviews, then it might be a communication with female talent about bringing maybe not doing like a whole thing, right? Like the lip and everything is like lots of foundation, lots of makeup. Keep it really simple. Bring your stuff with you, and if we need to do a little bit more, I'll have you go and do that. For men, most of the time, it's just reducing shine. And I have a couple of products, some of which are not made anymore, but essentially what I've landed on is sort of a gel type of product, which is a mattifying type of cream or gel. And when you put that on, it takes the shine away. It also tends to, if you have people who sweat, suppress that a little bit. And I will apply that with a little, basically, foam wedge. And, you have them close their eyes gently. You take care of the T-zone and you get under here and over here. And if you have me, then it's everywhere. I mean, I just slap it on my hands and just go like this and then wash my hands, but that's a different situation. So just do a search on my channel for that and Shoji. If you don't find it, then do me a favor and send me an email to contact@thec47.com and I will push you towards those episodes and those products. What are your tips on lighting for a sit down with a large window to the left side of the person? Windows have tint on them, so that's good. I am traveling for shoot, so what small lights to bring? Well, that's a tough one, Fred. It's a tough one because you're talking about a large window. So large window, even with tint, sometimes means not small lights. Now, there are small lights physically that have a lot of output, and then it's how you modify those lights that really is probably the key to the castle. Making them a larger source by either bouncing them or pushing them through a big modifier or a softbox. I would, if we're talking about a large window, that's gonna, unless it's completely flagged off and there's no light coming from it. My guess is depending on that tint, and I'm wondering if the tint is going to change color temperature as well, that you are going to probably key from that side. If there's significant light coming from the window. If there isn't, then if it's a controlled window in terms of the light levels that can come in and out of it, sunny day, all day, cloudy day, all day. But if it's sunny and cloudy, that can be a problem. Then maybe you could use it as your fill if it's consistent and it's not a lot of light coming from it. But I think your main source has to be, able to balance. It doesn't sound like you're going to be seeing outside of the window, but I think controlling that large window is probably going to be the biggest thing that you're going to want to do. And there's a couple of ways to do that. One is you can just basically flag it completely, right? You just take a black duvetine, or you take a black sheet, or a backdrop, and you just put it in front of the window, and you basically flag or block that light from coming into the space. Um, so there's so many variables when it comes to that. And when you say large, how large? Give me some more information on that. And there you go. Yeah, I'm rocking the Johnny Cash look. You got to walk the line, I'm Brown. You got to do what you got to do. I made a good 80s reference earlier on, which I think you would have appreciated. You missed it, but you would have gotten it. But that's okay. Okay. So give me some more information, Fred, and then we'll continue that conversation. David says, just a Foley tip. If you need a vicious bite and flesh ripping sound, okay, smoked sausage or any cased sausage is a wonderful, cheap option. I did some fun Foley for the Friday night frights thing that he did. Yeah, I would say kielbasa. Let's go with kielbasa. Pretty inexpensive. You can find it in every supermarket. You know, Polish people are being represented. That and some pierogies, and Bob's your uncle. All right. How do you make an interviewee, someone you're interviewing, feel comfortable on camera? That's an art and a science, or maybe neither, or maybe both. I don't know, but a lot of it just has to do with um, being conversational with the person. Here's a tip that I can give you. Most of us are in a small to no crew situation, hopefully, at least small crew. And the problem is that when you're the one conducting the interviews, if you're also tasked with wearing hats related to crewing positions, then it's really hard to reset. But you have to find a time in a production that if there's going to be a person who's coming into the space that's going to be interviewed, that you kind of have to give all of yourself to that person. You have to say, I'm going to give you all of my attention because we're going to have a conversation. If they walk in and you're fiddling with cameras and you're changing lights and you're doing all of this kind of stuff, then you've kind of lost them to begin with. So my advice would be, if you're going to be interviewing people, make sure there's a component of your production where there's at least one or two other people, that at a certain point, when the client or the interviewee comes in, or a combination of both, you can be present. You can be there and give them all of your attention, as close to that as you can, because that is going to go a long way in the first step of making them comfortable. Very oftentimes, we will be asked to also circulate questions to the people who are going to be interviewed. I discourage it because I feel like conversation or conversational type of interviews that feel natural are harder to come by when somebody has a predetermined list of questions that they're going to be asked. And inevitably, what they're going to do is they're going to take that list and they're going to go in front of a mirror, they're going to pace their living room or their kitchen, and they're going to practice what their canned answers are to those things. So usually when I sit down with somebody, besides the normal, you're not going to hear my voice, you're going to rephrase my question in your answer, and, blah, de blah, de blah, don't look at the cameras, all of that kind of stuff. What I normally do is I'll say to them, that list of questions that you got? And they'll go, yeah. And they'll go, well, I'm probably not going to ask you all of those questions. I might not ask you any of them. And if I do, it's probably not going to be in the same order or exactly the way you got them. And then, depending on the person, you're going to get either a look temporarily of terror. They're going to be completely freaked out because they've spent all of this time rehearsing their canned answers. You're going to have that CEO who's going to be canned answers anyway, and you're going to have to break through that thick skin and break their circuits. But that is what you're doing. There's a circuit that people set up for these answers. They practice them. They can these answers, and that doesn't come across as natural. So what you do is you try to break the circuit of them being automatic, you know, kind of robot-y, and they're going to freak out, and you're going to, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. We're just going to have a conversation. I'm going to ask you questions, because that is a starting point to have those key questions. But at a certain point, as the interviewer, you have to internalize what this project is about. What is it that you're trying to communicate to this person about? And then you're also going to find over time, we're going to have to stop and get to this thing, that you're going to find threads. Somebody's going to answer a question that you've asked. And an example that I've given in the past is I was doing a project for Cooper Union. I did a number of projects for them, and I was interviewing somebody, and they go, I don't know what it is about the school. It kind of has like a soul or something about it, blah, 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 blah. And then so I latched onto that. And then for the next, let's say, half a dozen interviews, I had a new question, which was, you know, somebody mentioned, or does this school have a soul, or is there something about this school that has like that? And then what happens is you start to create threads, so that in the edit, somebody might start a thought and then somebody else might continue or finish it. All right. Window is 30 or so feet long. Holy crap. 30 or so feet long. That's a big ass window. Other option is bringing down the blinds so that, are you seeing the window in the shot? That's the question. You're going to have to flag that window. So those blinds are probably going to have to come down. If you're not seeing them in the shot, for sure I would bring those blinds down. If you're seeing them in the shot, 30-foot window, you might be, then you have a different thing to deal with. So give me a little more data. We don't have a lot of time here. You might have to send me an email. When you're doing an international trip, do you carry your own equipment or rent locally? Combinations of both sometimes, Micah. I'm thinking about the risk and return potential. It depends on how small you can travel. If you're doing mirrorless cameras and small fixtures, fine. I would never carry grip equipment like C-stands and stuff. I would rent those locally. Oh, Miami weather. Tricky. Get those blinds down. Control the light as much as possible. I would probably say maybe even rent, Fred, a light. You know, something like an Aperture 600X, a Nan Light 720B, a large 48-inch to 60-inch softbox. That's going to get you a long way in terms of what you're doing. It might be better than traveling. If you're going to bring 150 to 200 watt key and you want to push that through some sort of modifier, it's going to be hard. Pat says, when interviewing, I usually start each question with, tell me about. That's a great tip. Maybe see window, not sure. Yeah. So, Fred, this is going to be a lot of ambient light potentially coming into the space. And, you know, blinds are not a great look on camera. They're okay. But there you go. You're going to have some challenges. I got to tell you that with a 30-foot window. Get a big enough key light, and I would probably rent. All right. 3:48. How did that happen? It's time for our trivia. Pat's here, the firefighter. He's going to be keeping track of the... you're going to keep track. You understand what I'm saying? Of the YouTube chat. I do have it here, but I'm not going to declare a winner for the answer of the question until that's happening. Tell me about, what is he saying? Yeah. Tell me about keeping people from saying yes or no and not continuing the thought. Yeah. Sorry, Pat. That's a different conversation. And not for today with about 10 minutes left. All right. It's the monthly trivia contest, or at least it seems to be right now, sponsored by B&H. Don't worry, Pat. I got your back. We're checks and balances here. And it's TV and film trivia. There's going to be 3 prizes, though the final prize is kind of like a 3-parter. I'll explain that in a minute. And it is graciously being provided, all of these prizes, by B&H Photo Video. You have to have a U.S. address to qualify to win. And if you won last month, please don't enter because, we want other people to win stuff. So there you go. Now the numbers are going up again. People are showing up for the prize. Let me have a little drink of wine here. Let me go get my aspirin. Kidding. I know it was a follow-up from the previous comment. Oh, it's you. Are you telling me? I don't, Pat, I'm trying to read your comment and I'm trying to decipher it. Tell me about keeps people from saying yes or no and not continuing the thought. Is that a question to me on how you would do that? If it is, we'll pick that one up in the next episode. If not, then I'm not tracking. But that happens. No aspirin. I'm not tracking. I'm just kidding. All right, here we go. First prize. Let's see. What do we have here? We have, everybody should be able to hear me. Let me know if you can't. We shouldn't have killed the audio. Let me just check. I've got lots of little windows open here, and that is the problem. No, don't say never mind. I think you were clarifying or asking a follow-up question, Pat, on there. But just post it again. And there you go. Can I sign in with my other account and win? I'm DeBrown. You're the one who told me I don't need this thing, and then you needed it. So I'm glad that it all worked out with what you won. All right, so here's the first prize. It's on special. It's, I think, a kind of interesting piece of kit to have. It's not necessarily something you'd wind up getting all of the time, but it's this condenser omnidirectional mic that you would put down traditionally on a table, conference table, a round table, and just think about having 3, 4, 5 people having a conversation with each other. You definitely see it in the shot, unless you were doing tighter shots. But it comes with a 25-foot XLR cable. It has RF interference stuff, and do that. Oh, you were clarifying your tell me about tip. Copy. Now I'm tracking with you. Thank you, sir. So this is kind of an interesting piece of kit, because is this something that you're going to use on a regular basis? Probably not, but it could be an interesting thing to, run into a recorder for nat sound. So you might just set it up outside or in your location just to pick up the natural sounds. Or if you had a grouping of people, it might make sense to use something like this. So I thought it was an interesting piece of kit. They definitely have application. You can use them in doc. You can use them in narrative. You can use them in corporate. And, if you win it, I'm sure you'll find the use for it. So here we go. I'm coming back to me. And here's the first question. So you basically, whoever answers it correctly wins that boundary microphone. So I'm going to do an old school question here. What 1980s TV show did the actor who was the principal actor, I'm not going to name him, in Forrest Gump, which they're coming out with a Forrest Gump 2 for some reason, with Timothy Chalamet and this other actor. I'm not tracking with that, by the way. So what 1980s TV show did the actor who played Forrest Gump star in as the character Buffy Wilson? TV show, 1980s. Anybody? Don't use the Googles, people. This is the honor system. So this has to come from inside of your trivia mind. If you don't know the answer and we don't get an answer to it, I have enough questions that we can go to a different... Up. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I see who I think is the winner because I'm looking at the YouTube answer here. I think it's Fred with 2 D's. Can I get a confirmation, Pat, that we have a correct answer? Even though the 2 answers are both misspelled slightly. Yep, that's what I thought. Fred Parr wins. So Fred, pretty simple here. You're winning this right here, this boundary mic, and it will get shipped to you free of charge from B&H Photo Video if you email me your full contact information. And when I say full contact information, I mean full contact information. So that doesn't mean your social security number or anything like that, but I need your full name. I need your mailing address. I need your phone number. I need like the key information for them to send it to you. And just put in that email boundary, Mike. And again, that goes to very simply contact, CONTACT, contact. That sounds weird. Contact. You know how to spell contact at the THEC47.com. Yes. There you go. Nice. Good. All right. Next trivia question. We only have 5 minutes left. Let's see. Where am I going? Okay. Hey. There we go. Second prize. Let's see what it is. It's this flag kit from Impact. So it's a 24 by 36, so 2 by 3 kit. You got a bunch of stuff in here in terms of diffusion, in terms of nets, in terms of like a black flag. You've got some fingers and dots. And on sale, $149 is the normal. $149 is a special price, which means that I can give out bigger prizes when I look for these. Yeah. All right. I think we're good. All right. Okay. I know, Pat. This is the way it goes. Sometimes you get sandbags. Sometimes you get flag kits. All right. I'm going to do a James Bond one. Here we go. James Bond. Which of, and this is multiple choice, but you're going to pick one of these answers. So you don't need to find the answer from your trivia brain. You just need to know what the right answer is. First answer wins the flag kit. Can never have too many sandbags, Pat. Which of the following James Bond films was not made in the 1970s? Moonraker, The Spy Who Loved Me, Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever. Those are the 4 choices. Moonraker, The Spy Who Loved Me, Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever. Waiting. Tick tock, for the flag kit. Nothing. I might have to go to a different question. Okay. David, I'm guessing you're being honest here. Yes, Eric had the first answer, but there is only one answer of these answers that are correct. By the way, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and whether I want to admit it or not, my James Bond was Roger Moore, and I remember very distinctly seeing Moonraker and other James Bond films. But the correct answer is from David Carroll. I thought you're not supposed to win for 2 months, David. Did I change the rules here? You're being very productive. You're doing lots of things. So, David Carroll answered Goldfinger. If I see another Goldfinger, I'm scanning one more time here. I'm not giving it to you 100%, but Pat, can you give me a confirmation that David is the only answer that was Goldfinger? You guys remember a gentleman named Sean Connery? It's debatable, but it's him and one other person who are probably the 2 strongest for actual James Bond, right? That gets in that same conversation of like, is is Star Wars Episode 4 or is Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, a better movie? Honestly, Empire Strikes Back is a better movie. But if you're a kid in 1977 and you go and see Star Wars Episode 4, it blows your mind. Yeah, Dave wins. Come on. You're right. I know, but yeah, I change the rules sometimes. All right. Last one. I think we'll do this one. It's going to be another multiple choice. So there we go. You know what to do, Mr. Carroll. Contact at the C47.com and just say Scrim Flag Kit. And this will get sent off, and hopefully you'll put it to good use in a future challenge. Last prize here, kids. This one's a multi-parter. It won't be the easiest softbox you ever open, is my guess, but it's not going to be ridiculous. It's going to kind of have a little bit of an old school speed ring kind of functionality. It has an inner baffle and an outer diffusion panel, and it's a monster. It's 84 inches, so it's a big, big, big modifier. And I chose it for that reason, because of surface area. Do not use the inner baffle if you're using like a chip on board LED light that's more than 300 watts. Do not use the inner baffle, especially if you're using a hot light from old school. So you're going to get an 84-inch octagonal softbox. So that's number one. Coming with it for free this month is the grid. So you get a large grid for the actual softbox, which is normally $140. And the last part of it, because it does not come with a speed ring, is it will include a Bowens mount speed ring, because that seems to be the most common one out there. So I'm going to make sure that gets included as well. So this is the prize, but it also comes with this as a bonus item, and it will come with the speed ring mount, which I believe you take 8 rods and you put them in there. My guess is you probably leave it in there afterwards. I don't know. People can report back to me. But that is the prize. The last prize, the first prize. And we're going back in time here. I don't know if I'm going to do multiple choice to begin with. If the answer isn't right and it doesn't come through, I'll give you the multiple choice. Let's do it that way, because it's a bigger prize. With what animal's blood do Carrie's, the movie Carrie, tormentors douse her at the prom with? What type of blood? What type of animal's blood did they douse her with? Remember that end scene and Carrie, all the blood she gets doused with? That's the question. What type of blood? Don't go on the Googles. This is from your trivia mind. This is an honor system here. Whoever answers this first. If I don't get an answer in the next 15 seconds, then it's going to be a problem. Okay. I see a correct answer. Let's and I see it in both the comments and reactions in Ecamm, and I also see it in YouTube. It's Micah. Micah, have you won before? All right, we're gonna have to expand these rules in the future, and we need to get more people. Don't be selfish. Get more people to the channel. But Micah, you win. Contact at the C47.com. It's gonna seem a little fishy if I keep sending stuff to B&H and it's always the same people. Like there's some sort of racket going on, or we're selling stuff off the back of the truck. This is not the Cross Bronx Expressway back in the 80s. Yeah, that's an 80s reference, but that's a New York reference, really, more than anything else. In August. All right, it's October. I can deal with this. It's all happening. You win. So we got 3 prizes, and then Mikey, you're getting this, and this. I'm sure you can put it to good use. I'm excited. It's 4:04. What does that mean, Pacific time? It means that we're almost done with the live stream, and I am going to shift gears, go over here, and finish up with tomorrow's episode of the Daily Drop. I appreciate everybody coming to the live stream, being involved. Tell your friends and family about this thing. Support the channel. And if you're buying stuff, there are links in every description for the daily drop to both the C47's preferred, lovely, I love this gear kind of stuff based on categories. And there's also a general link. And if you're going to buy stuff, maybe do that. Go get your Shine box. Unbelievable. Sam, I feel like this has happened before. Is it deja vu? I don't know. Pat, thank you. Everybody, we'll do another one next week, and then I think we are moving towards November, where we'll do another Cameron Flask. Don't forget to send in your information, your name, your address, your phone number, full contact info, to contact at the C47 and the prize that you won. And we'll get that sent off. B&H is closed until the 27th, so this is probably going to get sent off early next week. And I'm DeBrown. Come on. Awesome. I really appreciate that. Let me move it around so you can read it. I'll put it on my Johnny Cash shirt here. So there's a nice contrast there. Eric, I appreciate you being here for the first time on the live stream. We do it every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, usually the first Wednesday of every month. What is happening here? Come on. Another one? Crazy. I got to put this up here. Fred, there it is. Super chat. It'll go to the wine. It'll really go to the fund of all the damn equipment that I buy for episodes of the Daily Drop. Usually with the intention that I'm going to use it all of the time. But sometimes I just want to try stuff out and have you guys be exposed to it and see if it might fit within your stuff. Very generous. I really appreciate it. Keep the engagement going for the daily series, for the daily drop. And thank you again for coming to the channel and spending some of your time here hanging out with me and everybody else. Take care.